Hey, everybody, and welcome to big episode number 122 of the season 4 take of the Fantasy Fullback Dive, brought to you by the good people at the Road Street Journal. We are acting as your lead blocker. We are paving your way to fantasy excellence, fantasy glory, fantasy relevance, fantasy playoff berths, hopefully, although in my playoff world right now, things are crashing down around me. It's so frustrating. My season is going down the toilet one by one in all the leagues that I'm in. The Road Street Journal League, my season went down the toilet as soon as I drafted Joe Mixon. But the other leagues, just gradually, a couple weeks later, I'm going down. I'm riddled by injuries, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. But, of course, I'm your host, Nat the Truth Jones. With me, as always, the Wolf of Roto Street himself, hopefully doing a little better than me, although the bar is low. Wolf, how you doing?
Oh man, I wish I could say I was doing better. I mean, in the most part, my leagues are okay, and I've been doing. I'm gonna make the playoffs, and all the leagues are projected to make it so far right now, outside of maybe one. The tough news is fucking David Johnson just being a complete bag of shit asshole, or more so Cliff Kingsbury and not David Johnson. And I get it. Like, why would you reveal your plans to the NFL teams? And like, I don't blame the guy necessarily from a real life standpoint, but as fantasy owners, there's nothing more infuriating than a scarecrow, and this was like the worst type of scarecrow I think we've ever seen.
It's the biggest example of a scarecrow that I can remember seeing in quite some time. And the shitty thing is that game was on TV. It was the national televised Fox game. It goes on. I see the starting lineup. David Johnson in the starting lineup.
Yeah, okay, we're good to go, right? Yeah.
First carry of the game. I think he went for 2 yards. Like, all right, they're pounding the rock with DJ. He literally never touched the ball again.
Nope. And Chase Edmonds only had 26 carries, 130 yards, and 3 scores on everyone's bench. I mean, on my bench, any David Johnson owner probably had Chase Edmonds on their bench. Why would you have them both in your lineup? Like, just infuriating to see 34 points. I went 0-5. Those weeks where it's literally just like, it's like fucking you're the Joker preparing for work, like forcing the smile, like ready to just fucking explode. That was
just want to hurt yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean, who knows whether you did or not? Like, it's up to you at this point. But yeah, I was ready to smash my face every time I looked in the mirror. 0-5 is just not a great feeling at all. And to just cap it all off, one of the leagues I lost in was because Melvin Gordon fumbled at the fucking goal line. I lost by 1.9.
After being overruled.
Yes,
on
exactly.
Touchdowns twice before that, I think.
Exactly. Like, even if he didn't score, whatever, that's fine. Don't score. He fucking fumbles.
You just couldn't absorb the -2.
I couldn't take -2. I lost by like 1.94. It was literally like within 0.06.
Right,
and it was a pathetic
terrible.
outing, but like, yeah, it was just one of those weeks where it was like, I don't know what I did to you fantasy gods. I hope I've paid for my sins, whatever I have done. There is no rhyme or reason, as we know. I'm just nervous. It's not, I hope it doesn't linger. Yeah, I really hope.
I don't know what I did, but I did something to the fantasy god. I mean, my starting backfield in my hometown league, which is the one I care the most about, I rolled out David Johnson and David Montgomery.
Oh, David Montgomery can't be in your lineup anymore. Like, you just can't. 4 touches this week, dude.
No, never. But I mean, I'm running out of players. I mean, it seems like every player I have, you're like, well, you can't play him anymore. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Well, but I just don't have any more players.
That's called a shitty team.
I mean, right. It's a shitty team. I had Mark Andrews, who I don't know if you happen to catch him. I don't know how many balls you can have hit a guy in the chest and just drop. Eventually, they just benched him because he sucked.
Yeah. It's fucking tough, man.
So, I mean, every player I had just unspeakably terrible. Then
Dante Pettis 0-0, and I what the worst part of that is I actually thought for a second of going to Corey Davis of all fucking people. Corey Davis, why not return to the guy? If I had gone to Corey Davis instead of Dante Pettis, I would have won.
Okay.
And so of course I picked Corey Davis up this week to face Tampa Bay, and I guarantee you if he touches my lineup, and he might, it's a good matchup, he's gonna get 0.
Honestly, that's karma. You shouldn't have done that.
I shouldn't have picked him up. I got to cut him. I got to send him right back to the waiver.
You can't do that. You've gone on record too many times as hating the guy with good reason.
Exactly. So he's just going to tease me and be like, I could have won you the week. Now let me lose you this one. Like, oh God, I fucking hate Corey Davis already. I know I'm going to play him and I know he's going to lose me. Like, he
needs to get out of the NFL right now. All right. 7:28 on a Wednesday. We got Survivor coming up at 8. We're going to see if we can buzz through this and get through a pretty serious trainer's room, and then obviously we'll go high or low, Hail Mary, and mailbag. The trainer's room, it's a lot of people that are important are in the trainer's room, and we're going to kick it off with Josh Gordon, a guy that I own some stock in this year, stock that has just completely gone in the toilet. And Josh Gordon was just put on injured reserve by the Patriots. Allegedly not that serious of an injury. I think this is basically just IRing him as a way of saying, you're terrible.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what the fuck's going on. He's been terrible all year. He's been terrible since 2013. I saw like a tweet about how he had more yards, more touchdowns, more catches in 2013 than he has in every single year since then combined. Like, it's been just a no-show. It's a great phantom that everyone's loved chasing because he's big. He was fast.
Including us.
Including us, of course.
Every year.
Yeah, why not, right? Like, he's always worth the stab until he's finally fucking not. And ever since I've seen the first couple of games of the Patriots, I've been out on this guy. I've been calling him cuttable for the last 3 to 4 weeks. So hopefully he got ahead of the curve and didn't burn this roster spot for all these weeks. But ultimately now, they're saying he's going to be waived and maybe could get picked up pretty soon by another team. But do you really fucking care? I mean, I don't know where he'd end up for me to actually care because I just don't think he's any good anymore. All this does, in my opinion, clears more paths for guys like Mohamed Sanu, who just arrived here, could become that clear-cut number 2 receiver. Dorsett's been killing it on very limited work. He's been one of the more efficient receivers in the league. He gets more volume, more snap counts there with him out there. And N'Keal Harry's going to be coming off the IR soon. So if you've been, that IR spot in your fantasy leagues, maybe you had him stashed. Now he's going to have a more open path to target. So they've got some intriguing weapons with no real consistency outside of Edelman right now. But a lot of these guys could emerge for some nice stretch run value, especially with this roadblock of Josh Gordon's phantom, not taking up any more space at this point.
All right, well, good riddance to him. And I did, by the way, before this happened, I did hate cut him.
Did you? Oh, yeah, good. So was it cathartic? Did it feel good?
Yeah, I was just like, what am I doing? What am I hanging on to this for? I was a different man in 2013.
Right.
And, I had different life priorities and stuff like that. There was a lot of stuff that was,
That's funny to think, though. Like, who were you in 2013 when Gordon was actually relevant? Like, were we still at KIPP at that point? Probably, right? I graduated.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
We were still teaching together.
I was at KIPP. I won my last basketball title in 2015. Yeah. I mean, I was at KIPP for 3 more years after that. I mean, that was a long time ago.
Right. Yeah. Now we're revealing our true identities to the world, in case they didn't know it, where we've been.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Here we go.
I know,
seriously. That's so weird to think. Where were we in 2013? How old was I at 2013? I think I was like 23.
You were like,
so
like
I was
16, 17?
Yeah, exactly. No, I think I was literally fresh out of college, like blacking out, going to Fresh Taste of Asia, singing karaoke every Friday night.
Oh, God, I used to go to Fresh Taste of Asia all the time, man.
Great karaoke spot, man.
Yeah, no kidding.
What a toss-up.
All right, here we go. Raiders coach John Gruden said Josh Jacobs is questionable for Week 8's game against the Texans. He's had shoulder problems. Man, the Raiders got stomped, like curb stomped by your boy Aaron Rodgers last week. Yeah. Just on everything. Your boy who you were like, oh, you're sucking off Rodgers, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, I don't know. I kind of came out on top on that one.
Yeah, I mean, good God, 5 touchdowns and then another one on the ground, like what, almost 50 fantasy points? I think 48 in my league at least. Just an insane outing, perfect passer rating. Rodgers, but that's what he does. He does it against fucking shit-ass secondary, shit-ass teams. Like, and good for you, Rodgers. What's that?
Always at home, too.
Always at home, too. Exactly, yeah. So good for you. You beat up on the fucking pathetic Raiders secondary. But the one shining spot for the Raiders, or I should say one of 2, Josh Jacobs has been one of them. Darren Waller, of course, the other one. Those 2 have been the engine of this offense. So if he's removed, you got to wonder what this attack will look like. We're going to talk about, actually, we might as well just mention Tyrell Williams did practice today. Yeah. So he's now on path to play again. He's scored in all 4 of the games he's played in so far. But ultimately, Jacobs being out would be a tough blow. I don't expect him to miss time. He had this shoulder injury and then came back in against the Packers and looked great doing it. But Gruden made sure to emphasize, he was shot up. He had to get a numbing shot to keep playing. And then he said this wasn't just a rest day on Wednesday. It's a very legitimate ailing shoulder. There's 4 linemen right now banged up and potentially going to be out too. So as great as Josh Jacobs has been, and as much as I love the workhorse volume he's getting, if he's a little bit dinged up and playing behind this awful offensive line, I wouldn't be shocked to see a smaller workload, and that's even assuming he's active. So definitely something to track getting into the Wednesday, on Wednesday going into the weekend for sure.
All right, going back to the Packers real quick. LaFleur says that Davante Adams, due to this turf toe thing he's got going on, his status could go right up to game time. So that's another great indicator for all fantasy owners out there, including myself, who owns some Davante Adams stock. And going back just really quickly to Rodgers, let's not forget that what Rodgers did, he did with just a who's who assortment of people that are barely even NFL receivers.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, it's not, and Brady can relate to this, like having had just such a decimated receiving core. But I mean, it really does speak to Rodgers' greatness that he's able to put up numbers like this, throw into like, what's his name, Lazard, or whoever all these guys are. Like Marquez Valdez-Scantling was the best receiver he had going. That's pretty good.
And his fucking greatness against pushover like dummy bags. Yeah, sure. Like good for Rodgers one more time.
Okay, you could give Joe Flacco like Randy Moss and Jerry Rice in his prime, and he'd
Joe
still
Flacco,
go 2 for 45 with like 6.
Who's
yards.
calling Joe Flacco good? That guy is literally. I love to call him sewage. Like he reminds me of sewage. I look at him and I think of a gaping sewage.
I'm going to tell you right now. His game against the Chiefs was about the worst I've seen someone play quarterback until I saw Sam Darnold play quarterback on Monday. And then it immediately took over, and I was like, well, you know what? Joe Flacco had the title for about 4 days.
Yeah.
And then Sam Darnold was like, nope.
I know, exactly. At least Darnold was against one of the best defenses that's ever existed in the game. At least statistically, the best that's ever played. We'll see how that pans out when they actually face some decent teams. But like Flacco had no excuse. The Chiefs secondary is like awful, and he still looked that bad. So yeah, I mean,
well, he was probably intimidated because he knew Mahomes would just march him down. Oh wait, Mahomes was injured. He was facing Matt Moore.
I know we got an intriguing note on Mahomes coming up soon, but in terms of Davante Adams of the Packers, I mean, they do have a great. Speaking of the Chiefs, a great matchup coming against the Chiefs, who have been better on the secondary, more so because they're generating a better pass rush up front. That D-line has been upgraded, but still, Adams would be in a smash spot. There's no corner that could really cover him. I do like that they're truly waiting till he's 100%. Why rush him at this point? And because of that, I don't know if I expect him to play. Now, you want to make note, this game is on Sunday night, so if you're going to wait for Adams, and he is a guy that's worth waiting for, hopefully you can find a Lazard or somehow if MVS or Geronimo, they're probably not sitting out there after their big blow-ups the last week. But if somebody, Jake Kumerow even, someone like that, you need to have a backup plan. Maybe Hardman or one of the Chiefs' cute wide receivers has been dropped. But just make note that the fact that Adams isn't going to be cleared right up to game time, it sounds like, and that's a Sunday night game. Your options will be very limited, so you want to get that backup plan set now.
All right, Alvin Kamara and Jared Cook dealing with ankle injuries. They were both sidelined for Wednesday's practice. I mean, this puts, the Kamara thing, I kind of put this in the same category with Drew Brees, whereas, I feel like Bridgewater's done a good enough job where there's no reason to rush him back. Obviously, Brees isn't going to lose his job, but you wait till the guy is completely 100%. They're playing with house money a little bit. I feel the same way about Kamara. I feel like if he's not 100%, they should roll out Latavius Murray and they shouldn't take a chance. What do you think? What do you think is going to happen?
100%. And I'm going to dive into Latavius Murray a little bit more later. Sneak preview. He's my higher running back of the week. I can't wait to talk about what a monster he is when he finally sees volume. But Alvin, same idea, because they both also have the Week 9 bye coming right after this week. Like you get a 2-week rest period. If he's out there, it means, like you're saying, he's got to be 100% because there's really no reason to have that golden setup. Let's rest him one more week, get a second week right after. You got 3 weeks off, and he should be, right back to 100%. I imagine that's what they do. Although they did cut Zach Zenner today, I don't know if they even have a number 2 running back now at this point behind Murray. So that does, the tea leaves suggest maybe Kamara would be back out there. And Drew Brees, as we see in this last note, may be a game time decision against the Cardinals too. So I do think exactly what you said. They'd have to be 100% to play. So if they play, you got to feel very confident rolling either guy out against a pathetic Cardinals defense that can get beat through the run, through the pass, through every which way. And then Jared Cook, of course, we talked about endlessly how great a stream against the Arizona tight ends are, giving up over 8 points more than the next closest defense against tight ends. So if he plays, obviously locked in your lineups, and even if he doesn't, that means Josh Hill, who had a touchdown last week in his absence, would be a smash spot as well, especially on DraftKings and different streamers if you're desperate at tight end.
All right, Adam Thielen out for Week 8 against the Redskins Thursday night. I believe he caught one pass for like 25 yards and a touchdown last week. It's a hamstring injury. I always hate seeing that. You never know. Those tend to linger a little more than we're comfortable with, but he's out. By the way, did you know that Kirk Cousins has the highest quarterback rating in the NFL?
Of the entire season or just over the last few weeks?
No, he's the top guy.
I would never have guessed that. No,
yes,
I had no clue.
You never. I know you would not have guessed that. And can you? I mean, like 3 weeks ago, weren't like to a person, anybody who talked about football, including us, was just like Kirk Cousins sucks. He's
Yeah.
terrible. Like, if not for him, the Vikings would be great. And then, like, I mean, he's been like lights out for 3 weeks in a row. All of a sudden, and I mean, they've already got Dalvin Cook and everything. All of a sudden, the Vikings are just on a tear. And now Kirk Cousins, I saw an article today that said Kirk Cousins is an MVP candidate.
Oh, God.
What?
Come on now.
What's
Dalvin
going
Cook,
on?
maybe. Dalvin Cook
What?
could be a genuine MVP candidate, not Kirk Cousins. I know he's looked beautiful, but we've seen this before in his NFL career. He'll light up 3 bad defenses in a row, and he gets a 4th bad defense, this week, too. But I remember it was like a couple years ago. I think it was against the Bills when they were horrible. Like, you remember that game where Cousins was on a tear? The Vikings were the next thing, and then he goes into Buffalo and gets steamrolled like 44-0 against a winless Buffalo team.
Absolutely remember that.
I wouldn't be shocked if that's Washington this week on Thursday night. Being without Thielen certainly doesn't help his case. It's nice that Thielen was ruled out because just as early as yesterday, they were saying there's a chance he plays, but then it's like, is this a David Johnson decoy situation? At least we don't have to deal with that. We know he's out. We can make our streaming plans well ahead of time now. And so that means Stephon Diggs emerges as that clear-cut number 1 target hog, another 140-yard day last week after 3 touchdowns the week before. Diggs is really just starting to come into his own, and he should have another field day against a Redskins team, giving up the 10th most points to wide receivers. Behind him, whatever this name is, BC Johnson. I probably butchered that. I apologize. I apologize. Good friend of the podcast, BC Johnson. I hope you still come on next week. But he scored a touchdown in the absence, moved into the slot a bit once Thielen was removed. So against, again, that pathetic Washington defense, if you're that desperate, we're talking about Hail Marys here. I didn't actually have him on the Hail Mary list, but hey, he belongs there too. Could make a play, could score a touchdown if you're doing those, DraftKings Thursday night matchups. Just take a look at that guy. Ultimately, though, yeah, it's nice Thielen was ruled out well ahead of time for you to make your plans.
And just getting back to that quarterback thing we talked about, Kirk Cousins, number 1 in QB ranking. Number 2, Russell Wilson. Number 3, Pat Mahomes. Any guesses on number 4?
Not Tommy. He hasn't looked that great this year.
No, Tommy's way, way down there.
Number 4 on passer rating?
Behind
I don't know.
Cousins, Wilson, and Mahomes. And I'll give you a hint. Deshaun Watson and Rodgers are 5'6".
5'6", so this guy's right ahead of them? Is it somebody I would even know? Is it like a complete, oh, holy shit, I can't believe this.
If you get this.
Is it, like something like crazy, like Mason Rudolph or something like stupid?
He's 8th, actually.
Is he really? Who's
eighth.
number 4? I have no idea.
We would have accepted Kyle Allen. Allen.
Wow. That goes to show how valuable is quarterback rating as a stat. I mean, it is great to see these guys.
Well, Kyle Allen's undefeated, I believe, as a quarterback.
He is 4-0.
So it is pretty valuable.
I think so. I meant that more so in terms of predicting fantasy success. When we look at this, Kirk Cousins was useless in ruining weeks for you in fantasy. Kyle Allen was ruining weeks. I guess that's why you never see it as a fantasy stat, because clearly it has no correlation to fantasy success. In fact, if you're managing a game so efficiently, right?
Just to further drive that point home, number 16 on the list, Case Keenum, just ahead of Lamar Jackson.
Exactly. Oh my God. 17th in quarterback rating, by far the best quarterback in fantasy right now.
David Johnson, ankle problems, back problems, Mo Money, more problems. He's got a lot of problems. He's not practicing Wednesday. We've talked about this a little bit. This is just the stuff of nightmares.
It really is. And I just, as an owner who has Chase Edmonds in almost every league, even not in my biggest league, but even there, it's just just rest the guy for the love of God. Don't make us go through another, is he playing, is he not? Because it's you have to have David Johnson in your lineup pretty much if he's playing. And if he, that would be PTSD. I don't know if I can put him in my lineup, and then I don't. And he has 120 and 2 and is back to vintage David Johnson. The fact that they go out and sign Alfred Morris and then they also sign Zach Zenner tells me that David Johnson probably isn't going to be playing. Why would you bring in 2 other shit bum running backs, but still?
I was going to say these are not your top shelf guys.
No, not at all. So ultimately, I don't expect Johnson to go. I wouldn't. I'd like to see him rest. It's a tough matchup. The Saints are giving up the 30th most points to running backs. Next week it's San Fran. The next 4 games for Johnson or any Cardinals running back are by far the hardest. They're 30th, 31st, 29th, 31st. Again, they get San Fran twice. If you want to rest the guy for 4 weeks, that's fine too. Then they have their bye, get him fully healthy for the last 3 weeks of the season, whatever it is. As a fantasy owner, that's what I would love to see. If he sits, Chase Edmonds becomes that, right on the RB1 radar after we saw last week, 126 and 3 TDs. Like, you have to feel great about Chase Edmonds as a workhorse. This offense has typically operated all year with a workhorse back. So, whoever's in there, it's a one-back system, and I would love to have Chase Edmonds in my lineup. It would be a top 15 play as soon as we know what Johnson's status is. As long as he's out, Chase Edmonds should be locked into flexes and RB2 spots, definitely.
I'm in a deep dive on this quarterback rating thing right now while you're talking, and this you'll appreciate this. Here's the bottom 5 guys.
Yeah.
Josh Rosen is last.
Shocking.
You can't really blame anybody there. I mean, so 2 of the last 4 guys are Fitzpatrick and Rosen.
I was going to say both Dolphins,
the
right?
Miami quarterbacks. Sam Darnold is next to last. Cam Newton, 30th overall.
Deservedly.
Number 32 overall, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, wow. And then, as he should be, too.
12 points below Mitch Trubisky, by the way.
Wow. Pathetic.
That's how
Mitch Trubisky's like horrendous, too. Oh, my God, that's so bad.
But Baker is substantially worse than him.
I'm facing the Patriots defense this week in my big league, and that just terrifies the shit out of me. Like, he's going to throw – if Darnold threw 4 picks, like Baker – yeah. I'm facing – well, I'm not playing Baker. No, God, no. I'm just facing the team defense, and they're going to turn the motherfucker over, like, at least 6 times. Like, no doubt about it.
No question about it. Pat Mahomes, knee injury, still limited in practice Wednesday. No one's really expecting him to play against the Packers.
I don't think so. That would be just insane. But, Andy Reid still hasn't ruled the guy out. But, yeah, you're right. Like, he's not going to play yet, but it just is another sign that when, Adam Schefter tweeted out they're optimistic he could beat even that 3-week timetable, it's looking like whether it's next week or, maybe they get 2 weeks rest. I just can't imagine. Why would you ever put this guy out there unless he's, completely 100%. This is the face of your franchise, the face of the NFL even right now.
For the next 10 years.
Exactly. Like, there's no reason in the least to risk this guy. But the fact that he's limited and actually practicing right now is a great sign that you're going to get him back much sooner than you might have expected just a couple weeks ago.
So Sam Darnold with a toe injury was sidelined for Wednesday's practice. Chris Herndon, hamstring, he was limited in practice. So now we know why Darnold didn't do as well again. He's got a toe problem against the Patriots. Otherwise, I'm sure he would have lit him the fuck up.
And he's haunted.
Have you ever seen? I'm not sure I've seen that many passes that bad in a football game. I mean, like, he was missing guys. I'm not even just talking about the picks. Like, when he was threw some balls to Robbie Anderson on the sideline, and I mean, look, Robbie wasn't doing him any favors, but I mean, he was throwing the ball 8-9 feet over the guy's head.
Yeah.
Then he would like underthrow him by like 6 feet. I mean, the interceptions the Patriots were getting, they couldn't believe the ball was coming to them.
Exactly.
They were just like, really? Are you really going to throw it over
so
here?
Bad. It was, like you mentioned, one of the worst quarterbacking performances you'll ever see. I mean, it
they
sucks.
mic'd him up.
You're right. I feel bad for the guy this young to get mic'd up and now we realize he's haunted. Ghosts haunting him. Ooh, Sam Darnold. Like, what a pathetic thing to say on live air.
You know what he's not? He's not brave.
No, he is not brave.
He said so on air. No one could ever say he's brave.
No.
Sam Darnold's so brave. No, he's not. He's scared of ghosts.
He's scared of ghosts, folks. But yeah, he's going to be sidelined. Ultimately, I know how shitty he was, and it was disgusting, puke-worthy to watch. But if he's out, that does hurt this offense significantly. Again, this was the Patriots defense, a team that's given up only 48 points through 7 games. For context, the next best defense through the first 7 games was the Baltimore Ravens with 75. So it's like, I mean, they are just dominating at different levels. I get the competition has been pathetic, but still.
It's been terrible. It's still impressive.
It's still extremely impressive. One stat I heard, they would be 3-3 if their offense didn't even play. 3-1 if their offense didn't play. Like, that's how good that defense is.
Do you know the record of the teams they've played so far?
Oh, horrible. I get it. Like, it's pathetic.
They're the teams they've played. They played 7 games. The teams they've played are a combined 12-30. And keep in mind, one of them's the Bills, who are 5-1. So take that one away. There's 7. The teams they're playing against are 7-29.
Yeah,
like they average like 1 win.
Exactly.
And they've played each other. Like, Washington has 1 win because they played the Dolphins.
Exactly.
They played the Jets twice. They played the Dolphins. They played the Washington. It's pretty bad.
But
and they're
this is still, I mean, Darnold did just put up 330 against the Cowboys, who have at least a mediocre defense. They just stifled Sam Darnold. So it's not like they have done nothing. So, I mean, it was, I think this defense really is a very, very impressive unit.
Great.
And I think, yeah, it's ridiculous. But ultimately, all that's to say is Darnold, this shouldn't be the performance we totally judge him on. I'm more looking at his first week, and especially that week against the Dolphins, and what that means for guys like Jameis and Crowder, Robbie Anderson. If Darnold's out, they're obviously
I think this is
unusable.
Going to be his butt fumble game.
You think this is the one that just tortures him and just ends his career?
I mean, he's going to have to do something. He is going to have to do something to change the narrative. Like this, everybody saw that. Okay. So he's got to do something now where, like, when you think of Sam Darnold, this isn't what you think of. And we'll see if he's able to do that, because, once Sanchez did that butt fumble thing, like, did you ever think of anything else?
No, of course not. I think Darnold will get it back together. I'm a believer in this guy. I hope Gase gets it right for him. He's got the unicorn Chris Herndon back this week, most likely, who was limited in practice. The first time actually practicing on the actual team, not running routes alone and tearing his hamstring like a fucking loser. Ultimately, he should be back. If Darnold plays with the toe, who knows what the hell the deal is with that. He's probably not usable this week, but the schedule is still so easy coming down this stretch here that I know obviously you don't want that type of garbage from last week on your team, but there is still, if you can just look past it, there's a great opportunity for all the Jets wide receivers and for Sam Darnold down the stretch run here, starting with a weak Jaguars defense without Jalen Ramsey.
All right, we already talked about Tyrell Williams returning to practice on Wednesday, so we won't hit that again. I mean, obviously that helps the Raiders a decent amount. Washington running back Adrian Peterson, due to his ankle, questionable for Week 8 against the Vikings. AP kind of seems like maybe he shouldn't be in the NFL anymore, but he is questionable.
And he still is actually somewhat fantasy relevant because Bill Callahan wants to run the most ancient offense we've ever seen. AP's racked up 43 carries over the last 2 weeks, so he's averaging 21 and a half. He's reached 199 yards in those 2 games combined. So, I mean, there is something there. Even if he doesn't look great, even if he doesn't deserve that volume, it is there for whoever's starting. So if he's out, that means Wendell Smallwood isn't like the worst play, at least in DFS, because of how run heavy they are. Now, maybe Cousins gets up big. They have to abandon the run early. But if AP plays, I love a good old revenge game. This is like the ultimate revenge game of revenge games. You got AP against the Vikings. You've got Cousins against the Redskins. And you've got gunslinging Case Keenum against his former team as well. So 3 revenge games. I can't wait for Thursday night. Just a vengeful night for the ages.
All right. Let's talk about Bengals reporter Ben Baby. Is that a real name?
I didn't even notice that was his name. I just copied and pasted it off the news. Wow, Ben Baby. Yeah, apparently that's a real name.
All right. Bengals reporter Ben Baby reports AJ Green is unlikely to play Week 8 against the Rams. Thoughts?
So he's not going to play, and I wonder if it's his last snap ever as a Bengal, just because the trade deadline's looming. We've seen lots of action going on right now. So ultimately, AJ Green, this might be the last time the Bengals have ever seen this guy. I hope he gets moved. I hope he gets to somewhere like the Packers, even the Raiders, or somewhere where there's a competent quarterback. He's expected to be held out through that Week 29 bye week. So let's see this guy get moved. Let's get him some fantasy sparks for the rest of the season.
All right, we're going to move to higher, lower, and Hail Mary now that we've cleared the board of all of our training room mishaps, and there have been many. So we're going to start real quick with the record last week: 2-2 at QB, 3-2 running backs, 4-2 wide receivers, tight ends. He was correct on for what tight ends.
Yeah, 1 and 2. Yeah, I didn't put that there. Sorry, my fault. On Walker.
It's at the end. I mean, it's there. I just had to work for it, and I wasn't willing to work.
So 10-7 on the week. I've been above 500 every week so far, which is what you're kind of aiming for, right on 60% or so on the season. Not bad. All
right, well, let's get right into QBs. Higher. There's a week of Hail Marys that we got coming up here. All the guys the Wolves hire on there, under 20% owned. That's pretty cool.
Right.
So we're going to see what's up. Daniel Jones, 33% owned at Detroit. You got him as your QB 12. That's 5 higher than the so-called experts. I got to admit, I'm surprised to see this is your guy that you're higher on, but go ahead.
I know he's made us look kind of like a moron. After that Tampa Bay game, he's done literally nothing. He's been garbage, but I still think the raw talent is there. He's made some throws that just make you say, wow. And now he's getting against finally a nice matchup. He's had a murderer's row of matchups since that Tampa Bay game, and he's been without his full complement of weapons for a lot of that. Now they're all fully healthy. Sterling Shepard even should be back this week, and he's going against Detroit. We just saw Kirk Cousins bomb this team for 4 touchdowns. They're surrendering the 9th most points to quarterbacks, and that was when they were fully healthy. Now you remove 2 starters out of their secondary. Darius Slay with a hamstring, probably not expected to play. Quandre Diggs gets traded to Seattle, their safety. So even when healthy, they were getting bombed by quarterbacks. Now they lose 2 of their top cover guys, despite sucking with the best matchup he's had since that Tampa Bay game with his full complement of weapons back. I like Danny Dimes to go for close to 302 scores because I think Stafford can keep it a shootout style game too. I love the game flow of this one.
Guy you're lower than, Gardner Minshew, who, by the way, was 1 spot above Tom Brady in the quarterback rating extravaganza, playing the Jets this week. QB 18 for you. That's 6 lower than the experts. They like him a little more than you. Why so down on Gardner Minshew, Wolf? Why?
I don't get the love for Gardner Minshew, to be honest. I love the mustache.
I think it's because he has a mustache. Seriously.
He looks like a baller because of the mustache. I mean, the stories about him working out in a jock strap and like all these other great stories about the guy have kind of built up this legacy that you want to have Gardner Minshew in your lineup because it's just he's a leader and he's a fantasy locker room presence. But ultimately, the guy hasn't done all that much, especially as of late. Sure, he put up close to 20 points against the Bengals last week, but everybody does that. And when you look at the game, it really wasn't that good. He has around 47.5% completion percentage over his last 2. And so if you're ranking him as QB12 as the experts are, that means you have him as a QB1. And I just see so many better matchups this week. The Jets have been surprisingly decent against quarterbacks. They've given up 15 or fewer points to 4 out of the 6 guys they've faced. And those are QBs like Wentz, Brady, Josh Allen. So, I mean, if they're holding those guys to it, I really don't expect Gardner Minshew to suddenly top 15 points against that. So even though the floor is okay, the Jets have been much more susceptible to the run. So I see a big Fournette day. I see a mediocre at best Minshew day. So definitely not a top 12 quarterback as the experts have him ranked right now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get the Minshew. I get why people want to like Minshew, but That's different than actually whatever. And so, I mean, when we go to your Hail Mary, I mean, I have one question, which is, is that, what's his name? Is that Ryan Tannehill's music I hear?
You queued it up for him. I hear him coming down the aisleway. Folks, Ryan Tannehill at 14% owned.
That's right. He's still in the NFL.
He is still in the NFL, folks. Fresh off the junkyard, Ryan Tannehill. But look at what the guy has done these last couple weeks. He's had over 80% completion percentage since coming in for Mariota 2 weeks ago. He had a nice 312 yards, 2 scores in his first starts. And he really just kind of stabilized this offense. Didn't do anything crazy. Didn't have to make any insane throws because Arthur Miller, whatever the guy's name is, their offense coordinator, Arthur Smith, I believe the name is, just puts him in high percentage situations, gets the ball into his wide receivers' hands, and guys I hate like Corey Davis are getting stuff done over the middle of the field. AJ Brown is a nice compliment there. Jonnu Smith, their tight end, looks really athletic. And the Bucks, I mean, all be outside of Ryan Tannehill. It doesn't matter who the quarterback is when you're facing the Bucks. They're allowing a league-high 318 passing yards per game, and that's after a solid first 2 weeks. Since then, they've given up 34, 25, 27, and 17 fantasy points, and that's to Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Teddy Bridgewater, and Kyle Allen. Not on anybody's top 10 list outside maybe Goff in the NFL right now. So if those guys can get 25 plus fantasy points, and Ryan Tannehill, fresh off a 20-point day himself, can get that type of against a decent defense of the Chargers, I think this guy could really have 25-point upside against the Bucks, which is insane. Definitely some streaming appeal if you're desperate at QB this week.
All right, let's talk running backs. Latavius Murray, you mentioned earlier, is the guy you're higher on. He's playing the Cardinals. You got him as your RB9. That's 5 spots higher than the experts. feel like this hardly even needs an explanation, but go ahead.
I just am surprised he's not ranked in everyone's top 10 because whenever he's gotten volume, the guy's averaged over 80 yards and a TD no matter what team he's on. Then you put him on the supersonic Saints, like the insane backfield. Sean Payton's consistently schemed up 60% of his work, whether it's through the pass game or rushing game, goes through the backfield. They have one of the top lines in the NFL, especially at run blocking, especially at getting out front and screens. And this guy's fresh off 150 total yards, 2 TDs on 32 monstrous touches. So whenever that backfield, they're both always backfields are always been valuable, even in a split timeshare. But when one guy can monopolize those touches, it makes them just insane. So the fact that he's not a lock top 10 by every single expert, assuming Kamara's out, blows my mind. Now, maybe the guy will come back, but he missed practice today. They did release center, but I just, again, as you mentioned, I just don't see them rushing this guy back when they have the bye lingering next week. So I think it's another monstrous effort against a bad Arizona team for Latavius Murray. Another 2 TDs coming this week.
All right. Well, Royce Freeman against the Colts. He's got your lower on. You got him as your RB 30, 8 spots below the experts. That seems too high to me, if I'm being honest.
Isn't that insane? Like, why is he the RB 22 in the ECR right now? I get he found the end
I don't even think he
message.
should be the RB 30 on the Rose Street Journal list. I mean, no
seriously.
way. The Colts have a good defense, and the Broncos suck.
Exactly. The math isn't too hard there. But if you want the numbers to paint that picture, I mean, anyone with eyeballs can see exactly what you said. But to have the numbers there, the Colts are 26th against the run, or 26th most points allowed, so very few points. And that's with Eckler dropping 36 on them in week 1. Since then, they've just been a beast against the run, even without their stud linebacker, Darius Leonard. They hadn't surrendered 11 points to a running back. Devonta Freeman Jacobs hit 11, but nobody topped that. Damian Williams, 5.3 last week. Duke Johnson, 6.6. Carlos Hyde, 3.5. So, I mean, that has been decent offenses without running backs doing anything. Decent, I mean, some of the better offenses in the league, a lot of those. Now you go to sewage Flacco and expect there to be a game flow to really favor Royce. I guess the one saving grace there is if they get down big early, Royce Freeman has been operating as that lead pass-catching back, so maybe he gets a lot of dump-offs and he kind of gets to his 8 fantasy points that he's been averaging every week. But how could he be a running back 22, a quality number 2 running back in your lineup? No way. It's just disgusting to me that he's ranked as high as he is.
I feel like if they did a remake of Shawshank Redemption when Andy Dufresne's crawling through that tunnel of shit, Joe Flacco would just be in there like about halfway down, just like, "Hey, Andy." It's like, "Hey, Joe."
That's I gotta make a video of Cortland Sutton like swimming through that sewage and somehow
Flacco's
out
just
on
in there
top.
and it doesn't even bother him, really.
Right. Exactly.
Somebody, I was listening to a podcast this morning, and they said if you look at Flacco closely in the game against the Chiefs, like he threw a ball and it got like batted at the line, and like he was like noticeably scared of the ball, like coming back. Like, his eyes got like big and stuff, and he just looked frightened.
So pathetic.
All right,
Another
JD
non-brave.
No. Oh, it's terrible. JD McKissick, Hail Mary versus the Giants, RB 41, 7 above the experts. Sure, why not?
Why not? I mean, the Giants are giving up the 5th most points to running backs. We just saw Chase Edmonds murder this team. So if the Daniel Jones prediction pans out and game flow gets the lines down early, McKissick's already been operating as that top pass-catching back. So 6 to 8 reception upside. Maybe gets a score as they've been bled by running backs on the ground all year. I wouldn't be shocked to get a nice, useful game out of J.D. McKissick as everybody sprints to Ty Johnson as the clear-cut early down back. I wouldn't be surprised if J.D. McKissick ends up being the more valuable one, at least for this week, when they're going to, in my opinion, be down and playing catch-up.
All right, wide receivers, you're higher on. Kenny Stills kind of sliding into that number 2 role as Will Fuller. Didn't we earlier in the year, I feel like we had some sort of, I think it might have been on the roundtable conversation. We had CJ on, we had Jimbo on, we might even had Duck on. And you guys were debating Will Fuller, and I said over under I want to say 8.5 games played for Will Fuller, and all of you were like, "Oh, that's a really good question," and I think you all said over, and I pounded the under.
Did we? I would have never taken the over.
I'm pretty sure. I could be. I don't remember what the number was. Maybe it was 10, 10.5 or whatever. But I was just like, I don't care what it is. I'm going under.
Yeah.
And here we go. Will Fuller's going to be out for a while. Kenny Stills is going to reap, the benefits of that. You got him as your wide receiver 25, 9 spots higher than the experts, playing against that vaunted Oakland defense that Aaron Rodgers used as his personal bitch.
Yeah.
Last week. So, I don't know. Will Fuller out again. Kenny Stills seems like not a bad option.
No, not at all. I mean, he's their lid lifter now. It's obviously had some value when Deshaun Watson throws a great deep ball when he can buy that time and then flick it. And they've already flashed some decent deep ball chemistry. 105 yards on only 4 catches last week. We saw a 35-yard touchdown in week 1. So we've seen signs of this, and now he is going to be that clear number 2 with Will Fuller removed from the offense, and he gets the second best wide receiver cornerback matchup according to Pro Football Focus. There's no way this guy doesn't catch at least one deep touchdown this week. I think you're getting 120 and at least one score from Will Fuller. So if you picked him up on waiver wires, a great wide receiver 3 or flex to toss in, much higher than the experts on this guy.
Jamison Crowder against the Jags, wide receiver 26, 12 spots above the experts. I kind of feel like you're taking this more because the experts are so low on him as opposed to like you think he's going to let him. And they have him at their 38. I mean, I could certainly understand someone being skeptical of, I don't know, Sam Darnold and one of his top receivers after the fiasco.
I still think, though, as I said, I get how bad he was, but that's more of a product of the Patriots defense in my eyes than a product of Sam Darnold and who he really is. I look more at that Dallas game. I look more at that Bills game. In both of those games, Jamison Crowder had a 35% target share. He scored 24 and 15.8 fantasy points, ranked as the wide receiver 12 and wide receiver 18 over those 2 weeks. So the fact that he's 38 with Anderson most likely to drop Bouye and really no one else there. We saw Alex Erickson, some sort of creature, just had 14 targets and 9 catches for 147 yards. There's no way Crowder, like, he's got more talent than fucking Alex Erickson. So if that guy can do it, I definitely think Crowder can get back to his target churning, chain moving ways against this Jaguars defense for sure.
I think that'd be a great shirt, by the way. Just said like more talent than Alex Erickson.
I think anybody who wears it has that more talent.
Right,
than Alex
just
Erickson,
like,
yeah.
Well, yeah, probably so.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to say we were talking about the Houston receivers. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, you would agree, has not done much this year. I mean, he had a big first game and he had a good game last week. Do you know what number wide receiver he is PPR in the on the season?
He's probably still in your top, 18, right? Like, is he wide receiver? Like,
He's number 7. He's number 7.
Really? That's so insane to me. Like, so wide receivers just have been shitty this year, huh?
Doesn't he just seem like he's been awful?
Yeah. And I guess wide receiver 7 for him, like, everyone's drafting him number 1 overall, is definitely a letdown, but, like, I thought it was going to be much, 19
It just leads
like
me to believe he's going to be 1 or 2 by the end of the year.
Yeah, right, exactly. I agree, too, especially with Fuller now out, too. More target share coming his way. We saw it last week. Yeah, that's the Hopkins we expected all year. The schedule is soft the rest of the year. So, yeah, I'm with you. Definitely a good stretch run coming. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Tyler Boyd playing the Rams. You got him as your wide receiver 36. That's 10 spots lower than the experts. I can't imagine anybody thinks Tyler Boyd's going to do well, but I guess the experts kind of do.
26.
You are lower on Boyd. Yeah, they got him at 26. That's like a low end wide receiver too. Are you kidding me, Tyler Boyd?
Right, exactly. I don't know. I mean, in his last 4 games, let's listen to these stats. 5 points, 23 points, 3 points, 6 points. What's the common denominator there? He had 1 blow up, 3 just absolutely abysmal duds. And in those duds was when he was drawing actually decent cornerbacks. That 1 blow up came against the Patrick Peterson-less Cardinals, which obviously they have no one that can cover anybody without Patrick Peterson. So then you look at Pittsburgh, they got Hayden, you got Humphreys on Baltimore, and now you got Bowie on Tyler Boyd coming this week. Or last week, whatever I say, and now he gets Jalen Ramsey for the Rams. I mean, if he can't beat those other 3, there's no way he's getting open against Jalen Ramsey. So this is going to be another one of those 5 to 6 point at best duds. No way he hits that 23-point ceiling that we saw a couple weeks ago. He just can't beat number 1 corners. He's just not that good. He's a great number 2, but a terrible number 1. He's not going to beat any of those corners, especially not Jalen Ramsey this week.
Speaking of people that name recognition keep getting put at the top of these lists, Keenan Allen playing at the Bears. You got him as your wide receiver 18. The experts have him actually at number 10. There's not much to get excited about as far as anybody on the Chargers right now. Even Keenan Allen, who a month ago we're saying was like the best wide receiver in football.
I mean, that was a month ago, and you look at the last month, it's just been abysmal. Since then, wide receiver 34, wide receiver 59, wide receiver 60, wide receiver 36, hasn't even approached 10 points over those 4 weeks, and that's all been since Melvin Gordon returned. Now, I don't know exactly why those two things would go hand in hand. Maybe they're trying to force feed Gordon and get him involved more, and it's just kind of stymieing the offense and making him a slow, sluggish team. This team definitely looked more explosive when it was like the Eckler, Keenan Allen show for sure. But against Chicago, who's given up the 6th fewest points to wide receivers, I don't see why we should expect a sudden resurgence. He wasn't getting it done, Keenan Allen, against the Dolphins, against the Steelers, who gave up the most points to slot receivers before they were facing Keenan Allen. If he can't get it done in those juicy plum spots, why is he going to get it done against this tough Chicago defense?
All right, Hail Mary, Adam Humphries, 5% owned versus the Bucks. You got him as your 47. That's 23 spots higher than the experts. They got him languishing at number 70. Revenge game is all I'm hearing from this big Adam Humphries matchup. Is that the buzz on the street?
Yeah, who could you be more terrified of than a steaming, beaming, vengeful Adam Humphries coming down the walkway there with my quarterback stream of the week, Ryan Tannehill. Imagine that
Baker
stack
Mayfield
on DraftKings, just striking the fear of God in your opponents right there. But maybe again, Tampa Bay, second most points to wide receivers. Plenty of those have been slot guys that have dominated them. So I really see a nice 7 to 8 catch, 80-yard floor. A lot of his value will come. Do we get the good Jameis Winston that can keep this game a back-and-forth contest, or do they get up big and start pounding out the clock? That will determine how good these wide receivers play. But with everybody going to A.J. Brown and Corey Davis, I wouldn't be shocked if Adam Humphries is the one that ends up having the biggest game of all these Titans receivers.
I just referred to the buzz on the street on Adam Humphries. Has there ever been a player that there's less street buzz about than Adam Humphries? Probably not. He's
no,
probably
God, no. Look at you. Just look at the picture.
I've never heard much buzz on the street about Adam Humphries.
Not at all.
You see that Humphries game?
Yeah.
Anyway, tight ends. Guy you're higher on than everyone else. Oh,
I can't believe it. I know.
I playing the Titans. You got him as your tight end 11, 6 spots higher than the experts. Bite your tongue, Wolf.
I just put it on here to hear your reaction, and you gave me exactly what I wanted. No, I really think if he's ever going to get it done here, it's these next 3 games.
He's not going to ever get it done. He's not going to get it done. It's like Josh Gordon, except he's worse.
But this guy actually was putting up good seasons for the last 2 years. Because he's 6'5", because he runs a faster 40 than Mike Evans, I get that has not come to fruition this year. But we've seen him getting it done, and I wouldn't be shocked if we get a nice spark stretch run here. Fresh off the bye, they have some time to finally look at the tape and be like, why the fuck are we not using this ultimate mismatch weapon that we've had? And he gets the perfect type of matchups as they're watching tape, because the tight ends have destroyed Tennessee, the 7th most points to the position. They've given up a touchdown per game to the position. In the one game they didn't, Austin Hooper, I think I've cited this stat like 18 times on this podcast. Hooper had 130 yards against them the one time they didn't give up a touchdown to tight ends. And so right after that, you get Seattle giving up the 4th most points to tight ends, and then Arizona, the 1st most. So if he's ever going to come into value, it's this 3-game slate. He can get his ball rolling here. I've seen him on a ton of waiver wires, including my leagues, because I hate cut him in a bunch of them. But I think this is the week he finally finds the end zone and maybe sparks a little stretch run value here.
All right, lower. Greg Olsen playing at the 49ers, tight end 20, 9 spots lower than the experts. Yeah, I agree with you. I don't like this matchup at all.
What's there to like? San Fran's erased tight ends. There hasn't been a single good game against the team from the tight end position. And since Arizona, which of course, as we say, get destroyed by tight ends each and every week, Olsen's put up exactly 2, 0, and 7 half-point fantasy points, and that includes matchups like Tampa Bay. Useless. So I'm not expecting much from this entire offense at all against this. I think the San Fran defense is very for real, and I don't think Olsen does anything against them.
All right, Hail Mary, Jonnu Smith against the Bucks, tight end 10, 30 spots higher than the experts, tight end 40. Rare that you see anybody come in at tight end 40 who actually plays in the NFL, but there you go. Why do you like Jonnu Smith?
I imagine he's ranked lower because they still are thinking Delaney Walker might play, or what is it? But all the tea leaves suggest Delaney Walker will be out this week. And Tampa Bay giving up the 2nd most points to tight ends. He had 3 for 64 last week, Jonnu Smith. Very athletic guy, big body, and definitely a decent bet to score against this pathetic Tampa Bay defense. So you could do a lot worse if you got nobody right now. I think he's a decent dart throw for sure.
All right, we're hitting the mailbag. Steven Gerschlock, PPR League. We got Erickson, A.J. Brown, if already starting Davis, or P. Williams. I don't even know what the hell this guy's talking about. Are we talking about Alex Erickson?
Yeah, good friend that we just raving about. 14 targets last week. I think that's where I lean. Now, A.J. Brown.
What the hell kind of league is this guy in where he's got to start one of these guys?
I think he's one of Jimmy's buddies, too. Maybe Jimmy's just scouring everybody off the waiver wire.
My teams are unspeakably terrible, and I'm not having to make any decisions like this.
No, that's terrible. Yeah, that's as bad as they come. But if you're already already playing Corey Davis. How could you ever start two Titans? Now, A.J. Brown would be my preferred option here, but I can't
really load up on that Titans offense.
I seriously, as I said, I wouldn't be shocked if it's Humphries is the best wide receiver out of those Titans guys. So for me, I got to go chase those 14 targets. I can't play Preston Williams against Buffalo, who's given up the third lowest points to wide receivers. I go Erickson and just hope for another 10-plus target day.
All right, Neil has a few questions for us. Juju, Curtis Samuel, or Royce Freeman next week in the flex. Man, Juju has just fallen from grace, huh?
He has, and yet when you actually look at the game logs, our guy Ian Hartitz had a nice tweet here. He's no longer that locked-in top 7 wide receiver, but he's been like wide receiver. Sure. That's for sure. But he's with Mason Rudolph. His game logs were like wide receiver 21, wide receiver 60, like a horrible game, and then wide receiver 17. So he's kind of sneakily preserved wide receiver 2 value, and now he gets Miami. So it's like of any team that he could have a wide receiver 1 performance, it's going to be them. So when you got Samuel against San Fran, when you have Royce Freeman, we already talked about why we're lower on him. You got to just toss in Juju and hope for his biggest game of the season.
Also, the rare kicker question: Sly or Prater?
Do you think I'm ever going to say anyone other than Sly in a kicker question? I'm not going to
say anybody but Joey Sly. Come on, give me
God, no. Terrible question.
And then we got Kirk or Teddy Bridgewater.
I got to go Kirk Cousins there.
Got to go Kirk, right? Top quarterback rating in the NFL.
Yeah, top quarterback rating, revenge game narrative, and plus, if Drew Brees plays, then Bridgewater is completely useless.
All right, Sweet T wants to know, give Waller and James White and receive Josh Jacobs.
He has Hunter Henry too, which makes it more appealing. I would say I do my best to try to get it down to Hunter Henry and James White to get Josh Jacobs, because Waller has just been that complete difference maker. He's not only seeing the volume we saw of Jared Cook, but he's that much more of an athletic freak. He is the truly difference-making tight end, the George Kittle of last year. And I mean, he might be my number 1 tight end now with, Kelsey dealing with a banged-up Mahomes. I don't know who I'd rather have. Maybe just Kittle at this point than Darren Waller.
Zach Mullings has a long-ass question here.
Should we just ignore this one? This is too fucking long.
All right, fair enough. Chiz, Kiz, Shady, Christian Kirk, Manny Sanders, or Auden Tate for my last flex, half PPR. I was also offered Zach Ertz and T.Y. Hilton for my Tyler Lockett, and I love the guy. So the idea makes me sad, but I have to take that deal, right? My tight end is Stream/Chris Herndon currently.
Yeah, so for the flex, we'll start there before we get to the trade. I'd go Shady facing Green Bay, 5th most points to running backs. He's the one guy out of Green Bay that's seen about 50% of the snaps these last few weeks. The one guy that's been consistent enough to trust against a bad Green Bay run D. I go Shady over those other shaky wide receiver options. I love Manny Sanders rest of the season, but first game with the Niners is asking for a little bit too much in my opinion. And then I got Chris Herndon. If that's your tight end and that's pretty damn weak, yeah, I think Lockett and Hilton aren't too far off. And I get Zach Ertz has been as embarrassing as can be, especially if you burned a 2nd or 3rd round pick on the guy. But right now you're buying as low as possible. I think he regresses, if not to that level that we were used to Zach Ertz, at least somewhat close. I know Dallas Goedert's ascensions really hurt him. I know they've added a ton of wide receiver weapons, but I think Ertz, the best is yet to come for this guy. So I think that brings a nice, stable tight end to your roster, and you don't drop off all that much at Hilton. Though I will say Lockett's schedule in these next coming weeks is as gorgeous as it gets. So, I mean, you're going to watch this guy blow up for a few weeks. Ultimately, the long term, I think that deal has to be done, yes.
All right, Joel Curry wants to know, pick one, full PPR league, Kenny Still versus Oakland or Golden Tate at Detroit, Jamison Crowder at Jacksonville. One of those guys. Tate, Crowder, Still.
I love all three of them. In full point PPR, I do think I lean Golden Tate. I love the blow-up potential of Stills here, but Golden Tate's kind of a lock for at least 6 catches. Another revenge game narrative. I can't avoid those.
Yeah. Love those revenge games.
Gotta love them. And Darius Slay going to be out for Detroit. They're out there, their second corner as well. I really think this is the big game for Danny Dimes to resurge. I think Golden Tate's a big part of that.
All right, finally, release the Kraken, half-point PPR. Pick 2 of these guys. Kenny Stills, Robbie Anderson. Are you fucking kidding me? Brandon Cooks, DJ Moore. 2 of them.
I got to go Stills as my clear top option there. And then, as you said, with Robbie Anderson, I can't go that guy with Sam Darnold looking as shitty as he did with Boye probably covering him. So I think I go Cooks here. DJ Moore getting that San Fran D. I don't love starting anybody against them. So give me Cooks, give me Stills.
Agree on that one. All right, that's going to do it. Anything you want to talk about before we take off, Wolf?
Of course, you can find me at RotoStreetWolf, and our website is rotostreetjournal.com. We breed and feed fantasy wolves. Thanks for tuning into the Fantasy Fullback Dive, where we pave that path to 2019 titles. You can find our other stuff. The one social I want to make sure everyone tries to follow is our Facebook, where we do all our live broadcasts. Our Sunday tailgate has picked up some tons of steam this year. We want to beat our 250 comment record from like week 5. It still hasn't been topped. So come on down to the tailgate, have a drink with us, and get all your sit-start questions answered there. And we have a DFS show tomorrow as well if you enjoy DFS. Me and Jimbo, we've been in the money the 2 weeks, so if you've been listening, you would have won these last 2 weeks. A little bit of money for the wallet. Not millionaires yet, but definitely padding the wallets a little bit. So tune on into me and Jimbo's picks for this week of Daily Fantasy. We'd love to have you join the pod. And if you like what you hear, I saw we're up to 53 reviews, and I think we're like 4.9. Yeah. So
that's a lot.
That's not bad. We're picking up a little bit of review steam here, and I like that. So it means the world to us. If you're listening and you like what you hear, if we've given you any advice that's helped you out, give us that review. Give us any words we can improve on, anything like that. It means the world to hear from you guys.
All right. Couldn't have said it any better myself. My name is Nat the Truth Jones.
And I'm the Wolf. Later, guys.
See ya.